On Thursday, the 7th of January 2021, Airfix announced their new range for this year. Unfortunately, it was delayed by 24 hours due to technical difficulties. If last year was anything to go by, Airfix were anticipating their website to crash, so delayed it in order to prevent the launches of the Scalextric and Hornby ranges from causing too much traffic to kill their website. With that small little problem out of the way and the Airfix range now being fully released, let's take a look at what they have got planned. Hey guys, I'm Matt, this is Model Minutes, and I'll be your guide through the Airfix 2021 range, or as I prefer to call it, the good, the bad, and the disappointing. Now before I get into this, I think we all agree that 2020 was a bit of a difficult year, and as a result I'm sure that Airfix have had to make some very hard decisions, particularly with the supply issues that a global pandemic has caused, along with the whole Brexit situation here in the UK, which is going to affect global trade. So it's not hard to see why Airfix has the number of kits it has in its range this year, but more on that as we get into it. So the way I've split this video down is into three parts. Firstly, we're going to look at the Vintage Classic range, then we're going to look at the normal releases, and then we're going to look at the new tools. Up first, we've got the Hawker Siddeley 121 Trident. This is retailing approximately for about £12.99, and it was tooled in 1966. The scale is going to be 1 to 144th scale, and there are going to be 61 parts, and we're going to likely see that in the summer of 2021. Take a pinch of salt with all of these expected dates, as Airfix had quite a big range announced last year, and we're still waiting on some of those kits from 2020. This will be an interesting kit to see back into the range, but personally, I'm not particularly interested in it. Here we've got the World War II British Infantry, a 1/32nd scale kit. Now I've done quite a bit of research into finding out when these kits were released initially, and I'm led to believe that this one comes from 1977, but I might be wrong on that one, hence the question mark. All of the 1/32nd scale figure kits that the Airfix range is going to have in the Vintage Classic series have 14 figures, and again this one's expected in summer 2021. Should be quite a nice kit for those who want to do some figure painting, but sadly being 1/32nd scale doesn't quite fit in with the 1/35 vehicles that are so popular. Next one is the World War II British Paratroops, same sort of price, tooled in 1969, so it's quite an old one, and again the same information as before. World War II German Infantry follows them. Again, tooled possibly in 1969, I wasn't quite sure on the date of that one, but it seems to me that Airfix have started to re-release this entire 1/32nd vintage figure range, because as you can see up next, we've got some more German Paratroops. Again, possibly tooled in 1968, so these are vintage kits. The US Infantry joins the list as well. Same sort of deal. Most of these kits have been in and out of the Airfix range over the last couple of years, so you can still find them on shop shelves in their more typical Airfix Rebox versions rather than as part of the vintage range, which is a little bit misleading if I'm honest. The US Paratroops are making a comeback this year, possibly from 1975, so one of the slightly more recent ones compared to the other vintage figure sets. Now we've got another aircraft, the D3A1 Val, and this is an old one. This is 1965 vintage, only 34 parts in there, and you're going to be looking at spending about £9 for that. I might get this one. I have got a Mr. Craft Val, I think, in the stash, and it'll be interesting to see how this compares, but I'm not expecting wonders from a 1965 tooling. The Beach Buggy makes a reappearance, quite a classic and iconic looking vehicle. Again, in that slightly funny scale of 1/32, and this one originally dates from 1973. You'll be looking at spending around the £9 marks for this. I might get one of these. It looks like an interesting and fun kit to build, shouldn't be too difficult to do. Which leads us on to the next one in the Vintage Classic range, which I probably will get. And that's the Handley Page HP42 Heracles. Retailing for around £12.99, it was tooled in 1965. This one's at 1 to 144th scale and features 74 parts. And I have seen these going on the second-hand market when they were previously released years ago for absolutely ridiculous amounts of money, you know, £50, £60, £70 worth. So to have it back in the range as something to build that's going to be interesting and fun, this is something that I'm looking forward to. and according to this, we should be able to see it within the next couple of months. Finally, the last one to look at is a Jaguar 420, which dates from 1968, so again, it is a very vintage kit. In that slightly funny 1/32 scale again, and you can expect 114 parts. £11.99 is the retail price, so that seems fairly reasonable, but we won't see that until the end of the year. So let's round this section off with a summary. You are going to expect 11 model kits in the Vintage Classic range, 2 of which are car models, which were the Beach Buggy and the Jaguar 420, 6 figure sets, all in 1/32 scale, and 3 aircraft models, only 2 of which I probably would be interested in getting. And I'll pop it on screen now, the entire list of all the kits with their prices. So it's not a big year for the Vintage Classic range. Like I said, only 11 model kits coming out on this range, so maybe Airfix have got a lot more in their other sections. So with that being said, let's take a look at their normal re-releases. So these are kits that aren't old enough to be released as a vintage range, but have potentially been released in the last 10, 20, 30 years, and are generally sort of featured in the Airfix range quite often. So let's start big. Go big or go home, as they say. The B-17G Flying Fortress is making a reappearance in the range, retailing for around £32.99, so call it 33. It is a 1/72 scale model, and it has 245 parts, which is a lot. This kit was originally tooled back in 2016, and you are very likely going to be able to find other versions of this kit out there. Effectively, the only difference in this kit is the difference of decals, as you can see on the screen there. But obviously, as it says at the bottom, liveries are subject to change. Hopefully, we might see this one in a couple of months, as it says spring 2021. This is possibly a kit I might get, but I still have another B-17 in the stash, which I need to clear out first. Up next is the Messerschmitt Bf109 G6, and I have actually built one of these, not obviously in this paint scheme, because this hasn't been released yet, but in the older Swiss version. The original tooling is 2009, and you can expect to pay £9.99 for it. The kit in itself is alright. It doesn't have the most detail of a 1/72 scale kit, particularly something that was released recently, but it's moderate. It's okay to build, and the paint schemes on the screen there look to be quite interesting. I quite like the look of the one at the top, so I might get one. Should be quite a low stress build, and it's got a very interesting paint scheme, but I guess we'll just have to see how the year pans out. Again, we can expect to see this one in the spring. Another aircraft follows this one. It is the Concorde Gift Set, and I'm pretty sure this is the 1977 tooling, so it's a bit old. It's not, well, it probably could be included in the vintage range, but they haven't. The reason for this, I'm pretty sure, is because last year they released the prototype version of the Concorde tooling in the Vintage Classics range, and I guess they want to have one in the Vintage range and another one in the normal range. I could be wrong though. On the website, couldn't find out how many parts it had, but we're going to be looking at spending about £30 for this one. The fact that it says it's a gift set tells me there are going to be paints, glues and brushes included in the set, but I guess we'll have to wait until the summer to find out. This is a model kit that I'm actually interested in getting, the NHS Charities Together Hawk. So for those of you who might not be aware, during the first lockdown here in the UK last year, 2020, Airfix decided to do a competition where they would let someone design a paint scheme or livery for a BAE Hawk. The whole idea was about supporting the NHS, the National Health Service, here in the UK, and raising funds for them so that they can fight the pandemic. As a result, we've now got 2 paint schemes. One is by the actual designer of who works for Airfix, and then the second one is by the competition winner. So included in the box, you should get 2 paint schemes. It's going to be retailing for £14, and the tooling, now it says there 2020, so this is going to be the new tool Hawk, which is part of the beginner sort of starter set range, and you can see that it's only got 24 parts. I had to do a bit of research into this and make sure that it wasn't going to be one of the other Hawk toolings. It's actually the one which comes with the little display stand. So I couldn't put it in the new tool kits for this year because technically this particular tooling dates from last year, but well, I don't think we've yet had those beginner Hawk kits be released. But this is a kit that I would definitely be interested in getting because it supports a very worthwhile cause, and there'd be something nice and different to look at on the shelf. We can expect to see those in the winter of 2021, so we might not even see them until 2022 though. Another aircraft rebox this year is the Junkers Ju-87, and I've actually got one of these in the stash, and it looks like it's a very good kit. This version obviously has a different decal scheme. The tooling dates from 2016, so it is to a very good quality, and there are 110 parts, and we should be able to see this model kit in about 3 months or so. Personally, I'm probably not going to get one of these, as I already have the older version in the stash. Up next is the LIM 5, which is a MiG-17 rebox. I'm pretty sure the LIM 5 was a licensed-built version of the MiG-17. You're going to be looking at spending £14 or thereabouts for this kit, and the original tooling dates from 2019. 87 parts are in the box, and I'm led to believe it's quite a nice kit, but I have heard in various places that there are some inaccuracies with some of the parts. But I couldn't speak on that from experience, as I've not yet built one. We should see this one in the autumn of 2021, but I'm not particularly interested in getting it. We've got a new version of the Sea Harrier coming. This is the 2010 tooling, and it comes with different decal schemes. I've not built one of these yet. I built the old Harrier GR1, which was from the 1970s. So I'd actually like to get my hands on one of these and see what the new tooling is like. You're going to be spending about £20 or thereabouts for this type of kit. And apparently there are 190 parts in the set, so it should be quite a detailed build. Again, we probably won't see this one until the very end of the year or until 2022. Another big kit, the Vickers Valiant. And this is what annoys me about Airfix, is that when they release this artwork, they always put the artwork on a white background, which is absolutely pointless when the aircraft is white or grey. So it's very difficult to actually make out the aircraft on these images. So perhaps next time Airfix, if you're paying attention to this, you would look at making a darker background so it stands out more. It's the same with those 3D rendered images. You always use a white background for grey plastic, and it's very difficult to see. So, but you'll see what I mean about that in a minute. Quite an expensive kit, this one, £45. It dates from 2011 and it's 1/72nd scale. We should see this one in summer 2021, although I would love to get something as big as this. Unfortunately, I haven't got space or time to build this type of kit at the moment, but maybe in the future. Another big kit, or big-ish, is a Vickers Wellington Mark II. Again, another rebox from 2018. I've heard quite good things about this kit. It's got 133 parts and is fairly well detailed. Be looking at spending about £33 for this one, and you should see this somewhere around the summer. And that's it. That is all of the reboxes for this year. So, in summary, that's 9 aircraft model kits. There's no figures, there's no vehicles, there's no ships. That's it. That's all that Airfix are re-releasing this year. It's not that many, is it? Again, I'll put on the screen there the entire list, so you can check just to make sure I've not missed anything out. But yeah, that's a little bit disappointing, isn't it? Only 9 aircraft. Maybe, however, there are more exciting things to come in the new tool section, so let's get started with that. So the first one I'm going to look at is the one that Airfix are absolutely, well, they seem to be absolutely excited about, is the Austin K2Y ambulance. So this is supposedly a never-before-seen vehicle modelled in 1/35th scale. So 1/35th being the more popular armour scale, which is why when I said earlier about the other figures and the other vehicles being in that slightly odd 1/32nd, they don't quite match up with it. There's some slight size differences, which can be noticeable to the keen eye. They expect this kit to retail for £28, and you should be able to see this somewhere around the autumn. Fortunately, we don't have much more information than that. As you can see on the screen now, we've only got 3D rendered drawings. But the kit does seem to feature a detailed interior, which would be quite nice. Not sure at the moment whether I want one of these or not, but I'm sure this will be well received by the community. Another new tool, something I am actually interested in getting, is the Havilland Chipmunk T10. Retailing for £20, it's not exactly going to break the bank, and it's 1/48 scale, so it's not going to be a particularly small kit either. We should see that one in the next couple of months, hopefully, fingers crossed. It's got a very interesting paint scheme by the looks of it, and the 3D rendered images you can see at the bottom indicate that there should be a fairly detailed representation of an engine which you can put on display. Hopefully this kind of kit lives up to the expectations. Another new tool, this time in 1/72nd scale to go alongside the Hawker Typhoon, is its big brother, the Hawker Tempest Mk. The Hawker Tempest being developed from the Typhoon to address some of the issues that the Typhoon had. So if I'm honest, this makes a natural developmental sense for Airfix because they've already got that Typhoon tooling, which they did a couple of years ago, and all they need to do is fiddle it to make sure they've got a nice Tempest. And down the bottom there, you can see that we've got an internal shot, and the details in there seem to be very similar to those on the Typhoon. This is a kit that I would be interested in getting, but again, we're not going to see this until possibly the end of the year. The next one seems to be one in the community that people are getting quite excited about, a de Havilland Mosquito. This is going to be a bomber version. I'm led to believe that Airfix had a fighter version previously, so this is a new tooled bomber version. Retailing for £23, you can expect this hopefully somewhere around the summer. And the 3D rendered images there, they do seem to have quite a lot of detail going on this model. I'm not entirely sure this is something I'd put at the top of my list, but it's definitely something I would be interested in the future. The Canadair Sabre F4 joins the new tool list this year. Retailing for £33, it's in 1/48 scale, and I'm led to believe that this is going to be quite a fairly detailed model. You can see some 3D rendered images down the bottom where we've got internal details. The one on the right showing elements of the gun bays, and the one on the left showing elements of the air intakes. Personally, not entirely sure I'd get one of these, but never say never. The final new tool for this year is the de Havilland Vampire F.3, again in 1/48 scale, and you're going to be looking at spending £33 for this one. I know that Airfix have had twin-seat trainer versions previously, but this is a single-seat fighter. Look at the 3D images on the bottom. It looks like we've got flaps that can be deployed or raised, and it should make for a very interesting kit. Again, not at the top of my list to get this year, but perhaps when the summer comes around I might change my mind. And that's it. That is the new tools that Airfix have set up to release this year. So in summary, we've got 5 aircraft model kits and 1 vehicle model kit. So that's 6 new tools in a year. That doesn't seem to be too bad, does it? And I'll put on the screen there the entire list of all the new tools this year. But that is it though. That is the entire Airfix range for this year. So let's summarize it and have a think about what they're offering. So the Airfix introductions to the range this year consist of 26 model kits, which, you know, is fair enough. 17 of those are aircraft. Okay. You know, Airfix tends to sell more aircraft than anything else, so that kind of makes sense as well. You've got 5 new tools, which is fair enough. 9 which are reboxes from previous versions, and 3 in the Vintage Classics range. You got those 6 Vintage Classic figure sets coming in as well, and there are 3 new vehicles. 1 is a new tool and 2 are from the Vintage Classics range. But then you look at this list and I can't help but think, is that it? Is that all that there is? Because let's remember that there are those out there who really enjoy armour fighting vehicles, and we haven't got any of those this year. I know we're still waiting on some from 2020, but we haven't got any new tanks or armoured vehicles. We also don't have any more 1/72nd scale figures, and I know people are crying out for some new tooled 1/72nd scale figures to go with their 1/72nd vehicles and planes. And I can't help but realise that there's no sci-fi, and there's no ships. There's no naval stuff in this year's range. People are still asking Airfix, when are we going to get that HMS Queen Elizabeth II aircraft carrier? And we haven't heard a single thing. But yeah, I think it's probably time to wrap this one up. In my personal opinion, there are a couple of good kits in there. In the vintage range, I'll be looking at getting the HP42 Heracles. In the new tool range, I'll be looking at getting that Chipmunk and the Hawker Tempest. I might even have a go at some of the other ones. There are going to be some bad kits there, particularly some of the vintage ones I imagine are not going to be particularly good. And that Messerschmitt Bf109 G6 is a little bit disappointing, due to the fact that it hasn't quite got the detail of other kits from the same era. But I can't help but feel a little underwhelmed by the amount, or lack, of kits that are in the Airfix 2021 range this year. And obviously, like I said at the beginning, there have possibly been a lot of external factors that have caused Airfix to make that difficult decision to reduce the number of kits in their range. But who knows, maybe 2022 will have even more kits released and joining their range. So fingers crossed for that. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Airfix 2021 range. Is there anything in there that you're definitely going to go and get, or are you a little bit underwhelmed just like me? A couple of quick shout outs. to my patrons over on Patreon and my channel members here on YouTube. A massive thank you to these guys for their support. All the support goes directly back into funding the channel, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Tyler as an advanced member on Patreon and Xander, who joins us in the beginner tier. Welcome to the club. If you'd like to support my channel for free though, don't forget that you can click that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss a modelling video. Another little thanks is to Modelling Weekly, who assisted me in the research for this video. Modelling Weekly is another fantastic YouTuber, so I suggest that you take a look at the link in the description and check out his build videos on his channel too. All that's left to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.